Hello, everybody. My name is Nasser,
I'm Jameson.
I'm Stefan.
and welcome to the Sports Tree. This podcast is mainly about just us talking about random topics in sports. Today's episode is titled High Times. Some would say it's a very unique name for an episode, but the reason behind it is because we'll be talking about drugs and the impact they have on sports. So we thought it would be a good name to go with the theme of this episode. Now, I'm sure we all know what drugs are, and we know that athletes have a drive to win almost all the time. Most of the time, this is where drugs come in when some athletes try and cheat their way through the sport by taking PEDs, which stands for Performance Enhancing Drugs. There are a lot of drugs that have been used by athletes in the past, and we'll take a look at some of the main drugs alongside some other topics that will come up later in this episode. Now, I'm going to start us off by looking at some of the main drugs. Like, there's obviously a lot of drugs that have been used by athletes, right?
Yeah.
But I got, like, the main ones that people usually get caught using.
Yeah.
So there's anabolic steroids, known for their ability to build and strengthen muscle as well as reduce body fat.
Yeah.
It speeds up the process of doing that by 5 to 20% compared to like the natural bodybuilding time, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is usually used in like you could say maybe like in like boxing and stuff, bodybuilding, powerlifting competitions, like people
Probably like all sports. because
That's
I
true,
feel like
yeah,
all
yeah.
sports are really like
Yeah.
physically demanding, and they, like if you want to
Yeah.
get jacked, like
That's
as
true,
fast as
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
But I guess this is where like growth hormones come into like
Yeah, like
HGH.
HGH.
Yeah. So that's also one of the 4 that I have, or the 3. It's used by athletes to improve strength and endurance in like a fast time, I
Yeah.
guess. And then we have beta blockers, which slows down your heartbeat. It's usually used by people who suffer from like anxiety and stuff. But sports that require like precision aiming, like
Yeah.
golf, archery.
So like archery, yeah.
Archery,
Yeah, like
yeah.
archery. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly.
thinking of. Or like hunting, maybe.
Hunting too,
Hunting?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like game.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
use that too. Like if you're, for some reason you're nervous and you can't do breathing exercises, you're gonna use beta blockers.
Yeah.
But if you get caught using that, then that's a problem.
That's a no.
That's a no. Yes, that's a big no. Now obviously, like these are the 3 drugs that I have, but
Main ones.
Yeah.
some studies have shown that steroids make you slower, while HGH increases size and has been known to increase hand-eye coordination as well. Now we move on to the topic of drug tests. Unfortunately, I don't know much about that. Jameson, would you happen to know much about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm mainly just gonna talk about the NFL because
Yeah.
in my mind, and I mean basically just statistically, like the NFL suspends like most of their players by a landslide for PEDs and stuff like that. It used to be
Okay.
the MLB, but now the NFL's taken over.
Oh, wow.
And so the NFL every single year, so the season ends. The regular season ends in like late December, early January, and the actual like end of the season, like the Super Bowl, is second or the first week of February. So after that, the NFL does a street drug test, which is like basically just marijuana. I think it's Adderall too.
Right.
And that's on April 20th every year. And after that test, they are not tested again until training camp. And that's the rule recently changed because of that. And it used to be the deadline started on April 20th, and some players got tested then, and then you could get randomly selected at any point throughout the summer. But they changed that, and a lot of players are happy because like, they're not playing, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to test them. So, like if you fail that 420 drug test and you're basically just an idiot, like everybody should have been clean by then, and you're not tested again until training camp or the first preseason game, and the NFL, if you fail that test, then the NFL hires like this third party program. It's called like Big Clean Game Sports, Big Game, something like that. And
Clean game sports.
and they have just representatives in every city, like in every major city in the United States where there is like big sports and or big sports teams. And if a player fails, then they're given a representative, and the clean game sport, like third party thing, they're responsible for all the drug tests. They're responsible for, knowing what the players are doing. Like if the players are if they fail a drug test, then they're put in the program. And I think like it starts at 9 months or something like that, or a season. It depends like the severity, and like some players never get out of the program. And so once you're in the program, you have to let your representative know when you're leaving the state, like what you're doing, whose house you're going over, at what time, like why you're gonna be there.
That's all your information.
Who's gonna be there? It's like people say like once you're in the program, your life's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pat McAfee, he was very open about his drug use in the NFL. He's retired now, and he said that the representatives are very strict with their policies, and he told a story that he got called to do a drug test when he was Bigfoot hunting in Atlanta, Georgia at 4:30 in the morning.
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so within you have to take the drug test within 4 hours of the representative calling you. And they say it's random, but it's definitely not random, and I'll talk about that later on my next topic. But yeah, Stefan's going to take you the rest of the way here to the next one.
Well, I'm going to mainly be talking about why drugs are banned in some sports. Mainly, we see that it enhances the athlete's strength or endurance in some kind of way, which makes it unfair for other athletes who are in the game or competing.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
It's an unfair advantage, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why some sports like banned the use of drugs because of the unfair use of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I found that there was this snowboarder.
Yeah.
And he competed in the Olympics, and they found out he was using marijuana, and they were just like, no. You know what I'm saying? They tested it. They knew, and they took away his like medal and award.
Yeah, and that's similar to what happened to Lance Armstrong. I'm pretty sure he won like 11 straight Tour de France's or something like that. They revoked all of them and they gave him to the runner-up because he like they didn't catch him, but they were like close to. So he basically just said like, yeah, he like fessed up to it. But a lot of, in my mind, like marijuana should not be it shouldn't be a performance enhancing drug. I know guys like Percy Harvin in the NFL have like after the career's over, he came out and said that he was never sober during a game. Like he played every game high, and I mean he was very good. Who knows if that game gave him a very, very good advantage, And but guys like Chuck Pagano, who's the former head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and I think he played for the Bears, or he was like the defense coordinator for the Bears last year. But he came out and said that he doesn't smoke, but he just like takes edibles and stuff like that and all the time, and it's really, and he uses like he says it's very good for his muscles, and it's a very the overall like rep around marijuana is very negative, but I don't think it should be that way.
Yeah,
but, like why do people confess? Like if you're taking drugs and you know it's bad, just keep
it a secret.
I guess they want to like just keep their dignity, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
but, like say they're like really close to like finding out anyway, then they just
that's
like
true. Then
you know what I mean? They don't want to get caught, so and they'll like lose all their sponsorship. I mean, they're probably gonna lose them anyway, but
that's true. Yeah, if you get caught, you're done.
Yeah,
I mean, I see like many athletes sometimes just take drugs to like chill, like calm down, or when they're like tense.
Yeah.
Usually after a game, you're like tense or
absolutely. Yeah.
Tensed up.
I mean, a lot of guys like were open about that. Like Pat McAfee, I'm gonna talk about it again, but he's during his prime, he was a very, very good punter in the NFL, and he didn't even want to take like after he got suspended for marijuana the first time. he didn't even want to take supplements with his, because say like the Bud Light that he drank last night before the game, he didn't know he was getting tested the next day, and say it had a little bit of like Adderall in it. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And and then he failed the test. And you know, some guys like Von Miller, when he got suspended in 2013 for HGH. And he said that he didn't know he was taking it, and like the overall, like the public just takes that, like, how do you not know that you're taking it? But a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the stuff that supplements are made, which is not tested for, the drugs that are tested for are also made in the same like factory. You know what I mean? So say a little bit of this powder that is tested for slips into this that isn't.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They take it and it still comes back positive because you know it's in their system.
Does it still affect them though?
Not. I mean, I would not know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so because it's like a little bit, but you know.
But it still comes positive on the.
Yeah, or there was also some stories about like some guys that. Because on the 420 deadline, this is a few years ago, so this is when it was still like you got randomly tested, and you only got tested once from 420 to the beginning of the preseason, and it was at a random time. You know what I mean? So you had no idea. And some guys, they got their drug test on 420, like the earliest it could be, and then they went home and then they did a victory lap. You know what I mean? And then they came back into the facility the next day and they said, "Hey, you were overhydrated. You know, we need you to take a new one." And they were like, "Yo, I'm done."
Yo.
Like, what?
Yeah, I'm done.
That's so random.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the new rule is definitely better. You know what I mean? And some guys like DeAndre Hopkins was just suspended on the 420 deadline. Like it just happened, and he's one of the league's premier wide receivers. And I mean, I in my mind, everybody knew it. Everybody knew this, so he should have been clean by then.
Yeah.
But I think he didn't know he was taking it, and I honestly I think that happened. You know, so
yeah.
And I'm also going to talk about like the Myles Garrett situation and why drug tests are not random at all. They say they are, but they're not. And so Von Miller last year, it was like week 2 or something like that. And Von Miller's a very, very good defensive end for the Browns. And he played one game with no sleeves under his jersey, and he got randomly, and I say that with quotes, randomly drug tested the very next day. And it's like, everybody knows that they're not random. They say they are because they don't want to be like biased towards people.
Do they have like a whole list of like who they're gonna call up next or whatever?
I mean, I don't know. They might, but if they did, they that would not come out. You know what I mean? They wouldn't tell anybody. And some like in NFL locker rooms, how you know that you were getting a drug test is that they just like the trainer went around the locker room and he just hung a slip of paper, and it's like you need to go by this time because before people had like phones and stuff like that. Yeah, that they could just test them. So you need to go here at this time and take this drug test. And a lot of guys would just go around the locker room and see the notes, and they're like, "Oh, that guy must have had a good game. He's getting drug tested, you know, like that guy had a good game. This guy had a good game because you know what I mean?" And it's like some guys that didn't have a good game got the note on their locker and was like, "Damn, like he's getting suspended for sure." So
that's tough.
Yeah, it could go either ways. And back to the program. So NFL players, different ages, like they could stay in the program for literally their entire career. Josh Gordon is another one who I don't think he's ever going to get out of the program just because he's been suspended so much. Like, I think he's been suspended longer than, he's played, he's probably been suspended more seasons than he's actually played in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
And some players, like Pat McAfee, he was tested, or he was in the program his first time for 27 months, and he was tested 8 times a month. So it's like it's just think about, every time you leave your house, whether you're going to the grocery store or to get some, like you need to text somebody and then wait for a response back before you do anything. You know what I mean? It's like very, very restrictive, but it's the way it is.
That's kind of like going overboard, no? Like
8 times
a month?
I mean, they're being paid like millions of dollars.
Okay,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of cancel each other out. But
You're
who's
getting
next?
money, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. So I think Nasser is going to take you the rest of the way through this,
Yeah.
or Stefan, one or the other.
Wait. Yeah. Stephanie.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about how drugs change your personality,
Yeah,
and it can affect your appearance and your personality. Not just how you feel and how you act, your emotions. Like you can be abusive when taking drugs, and you can
yeah, it changes you.
Yeah, it can change you as a person. You might not know how you're acting because of the drug.
Yeah,
And that's what I think is kind of like unfair. Like some athletes might get expelled or
suspended.
suspended
Yeah.
from the sport because of like abuse because
Yeah.
they were on a drug.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, that's the huge risk of taking the drug.
Yeah, you it's like you never know. You
Yeah.
know? You
Yeah.
go in innocent and you come out just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For some people, I guess.
That's why you gotta be careful. Like, don't take something too hard or
Yeah.
take something light.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think they should like put a limit or on it, like rather than just ban it as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean they're starting to test for stuff. I don't know if it changes you, but they're starting to test for stuff like creatine and like supplements that people just take like all
Yeah.
the time.
Wait,
you know what I mean?
really?
Yeah, just like and because it kind of is performance enhancing. If you
Well,
think about
okay,
it.
yeah, you're
Like,
not wrong.
I mean, you could say that protein powder is performance enhancing, but they're
Yeah.
never gonna
That's
do
true.
that. So it's
Yeah.
like, what's even the? I mean, yeah, there is a point. Like guys on like Adderall are of course gonna be like wired 24/7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And guys on like weed are just gonna be like super chill and go about it. You know what I mean? But it's like, why? What's even the point anymore? Like, why is it illegal? You know what I mean? If they're suspending literally everything, then
Yeah.
there is no point.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you see, most of people in this world are just taking drugs at this point. Like,
Yeah, it's so
like
backwards.
it's become normal. Like at this point, like they should just take it off.
Yeah, honestly. And I mean, some stuff is like worse. Some stuff that they test for
Yeah.
is like a lot less. Like some stuff that they don't test for is a lot worse than the stuff that they do test for. Some stuff, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it just doesn't. A lot of it's just backwards, you know.
It just doesn't add up sometimes.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. I think athletes would know what they're going to take before they take it. I think they would know if it's like a big deal. They would before they take it. I mean, it's on their
I mean,
part
yeah, you
at
gotta
that-
know the consequences when you're taking.
Yeah,
drugs,
yeah.
You know, like,
Or like where you get it, you know what I mean? How old you
Yeah.
have to be and
Yeah.
stuff like that. If there's
And-
like restrictions.
Yeah, like they would look out for themselves, knowing that they're like an athlete.
Yeah.
They would be like, okay, what would happen if I take this? Would this
Yeah.
ruin my career
Yeah,
or something like that? You know?
Then there's no like real test about there's no like list about what they test for. You know what I mean? It's like if it comes back positive, then you're suspended. But you like what was in my system? Oh, I don't know. It
Oh,
just
they
came
don't
back
tell you?
positive. I don't think so.
That's
But it's
crazy.
like because a lot of people know. A lot of people know what they tested positive for. But say like Von Miller.
yeah, yeah.
I think they accused him of HGH. But I think they only told him because he appealed the suspension, but he lost and he was
Oh,
suspended
okay.
like the last 7 games of the season. And this is like his best season. You know, he was coming off his best year. I mean, he's young. It's just it really just I mean it doesn't really make sense to. I mean, you have to suspend all players. If you're going to suspend one, you have to be fair and suspend another one. But Von Miller, I mean, a lot of people watch games just because he's playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same goes with like other players. But say there's some special teamer like third string, you know what I mean, like long snapper, and no one's gonna watch him. So it's like why, you know what I mean? But if they're gonna do it to one person, then they gotta do it to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got your point.
They can't just leave one person out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just because he's more profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right. This topic is a very big topic.
Very polarizing.
Very controversial one as well. It's one of those topics where you could just keep talking about it for a whole day if you really got into a good conversation. I'd love to talk more about this, but unfortunately we're out of time. Again, we are your hosts, Nasser,
Jameson,
and Stefan.
And this is the Sports Tree. We'll see you later.